if you find adventure at the click of a button, or from the turn of a page, or the casting of a die. Join your hosts, Conniff and Shiloh, on an unforgettable journey. Questing the multiverse.
You want to see my golden elephant?
I was scared of that comment.
So, listener, I am showing a golden elephant on
It's actually a golden
camera. If you're watching on YouTube, here you go. But so last year, and we're in the season now, right? Like, the stupid blur effect is blurring the magnificence of this golden elephant. But we're in the season of basically Christmas. Would you agree? When do you put up your Christmas decorations, Shiloh?
Day after Thanksgiving.
That is where I like to find myself as well. We're going to be traveling this Thanksgiving, so I won't be able to do that. But we'll do it like the next week or something.
Mm-hmm.
But what's fascinating to me is how the second Halloween ends, Christmas just appears like out of a rift, out of a portal. It just, and so all the Halloween decorations are gone. Christmas happens in supermarkets like Walmart. It happens in neighborhoods. You know, the people with all the Halloween decorations. Now it's all Christmas. And I think that like Thanksgiving has kind of become this primer for Christmas. And so anyway, the elephant, last year we got together with some friends and did those white elephant gifts where for anyone who is listening who's not familiar, you bring a gift wrapped and everything, but you're not bringing it for a specific person. You just bring it. It goes into this pile of gifts, and then everyone draws a number, and then number order, you go and grab a present and open it up. I think each person gets one steal. So like if someone opens something and you want that, instead of picking a present for yourself, you can steal that person's present. They cannot steal it back from you immediately. They have to then open a new present. So this whole thing happens until everyone's gone and has picked a present. And so the interesting thing is I don't even remember what my wife and I brought for this. It didn't matter, ultimately. Because once the presents started opening, someone opened that golden elephant, and I was like, no other present will match that. I need it. And so I ended up stealing it, and because I was the only one who had any interest in it, it never got stolen back from me. So now it sits next to my computer, a token of the time that I won the white elephant gift in my own heart, I suppose. So
That's what's important.
Yes. Have you ever done a white elephant gift, Shiloh? You have any good white elephant gift presents?
We do them at the Christmas party for work every year. And,
okay. What do you bring? Like what, in your mind, like what do you look for to bring to this?
Generally something that more often times than not, it's something that I would maybe want. Yeah, so I don't know if that's a selfish thing or just I know that I would want that, so therefore you would want that, which is, I guess that's a selfish thing. But it's not, I don't necessarily go, well, okay, I'm going to buy something very specific. I just think kind of broadly, you know. I think last year, what did I bring last year? Like movie theater tickets or something like that, or, you know, a gift certificate for, because that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily want to spend the money to go do a lot of times.
But if someone gives it to them, they're like, oh yeah,
they're like, oh yeah, we can go see a movie now.
Yes.
So, you know, I don't know. It just seems like a good gift. So, and I think the year before that, or maybe a couple of years before that, I bought some little entertainment game thing. I don't even remember. It was like a, I don't even remember what it was called. But stuff like that, it's generally, we only spend, because it is work, it's like a $15 to $20 gift or something, just swap gifts. And most people bring like blankets and stuff like that. I think one year I accidentally, I almost won a bottle of wine, and a friend of mine was like, "No, you don't want that." And I was like, "Okay." So I guess she brought the bottle of wine. I was like, "Okay, thank you for the heads up."
Thank you for.
Because then I would have been stuck. I'm sure someone would have been like, "Oh, a bottle of wine," and just try to steal it from me. But I think last year I won a gift card, and then someone stole it from me, and I ended up with something else. So. No,
but it wasn't a gift card.
Yeah, it wasn't my gift card.
Wasn't that gift card to Spencer's or something? whatever your haunts is. Okay, so do you then like close down the restaurant, do a whole group like dine
we don't
in?
Cook. We'd have it at a local Mexican restaurant. So.
Do you go to it, or do you bring it to your they bring it to your restaurant?
No, we go there.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Well, listener, welcome to episode 17. We are in the season, as we mentioned. It is a few weeks before Thanksgiving, which is ultimately a few more weeks before Christmas. And then once that's done, it's January, and then Shiloh's birthday. And then the rest of January is just actually, I think one of my kids has a birthday shortly after yours. So after all that, then it's the long, drawn-out winter and spring of nothing. So,
yeah, it's hard to believe that it's already Thanksgiving. This year has kind of flown by. I guess we can all use 2020 as a gold standard for how long a year can possibly take, and we just go from there. So the years will just be shorter and shorter and shorter now.
Until we die, sadly.
Until we die, unless we drag our coffins around or dodge.
like that character in Baldur's Gate 3 when we played. I just kept opening the coffin lid.
Oh yeah. Hello.
What have you been up to, Shiloh, this past week? Been busy?
I'm first.
Yes,
Yeah,
I want you to go first this time.
So a little bit of New World. Honestly, I haven't been playing a whole lot, if anything at all, of Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, New World has been called a little bit, just trying to get people together to do stuff, and that's always an adult thing where just never really seems to all equate. Timelines just don't ever seem to mesh, and it's funny, I was thinking on that and how kind of rare, lucky, or just in the moment that we were, that 4 or 5 or 8 of us sometimes were able to actually play ESO when we did at our time slot. So it's been a lot of soloing MMOs. I dabbled in that, but the mainstay of what I've been playing is actually Guild Wars 2.
Nice. Welcome back to Tyria.
Yeah.
Or not so Tyria, I guess, with this expansion, right?
Yeah. Well, I haven't even really stepped foot in the new expansion. So the new expansion is, because it's a continuation of the story, and I rolled up a new character, I wanted to roll up a Revenant to go into the story. So before the expansion, I rolled up my Revenant. I had enough tombs of knowledge and all that stuff to get her immediately to 80. And got her, kind of figured out what kind of build that I wanted to run, and made a Renegade. So I did hero points. I didn't even do a train. I just went out to Cantha and went through all the different maps and got all the hero points I needed for Renegade, and had to go into a little bit Heart of Thorns maps in Verdant Bring to get a few others, and got Vindicator unlocked, and just putzed around in there for a while. But yeah, I'm enjoying the Revenant, and it's kind of forced me to go, I didn't really realize I really liked this class, and my character in particular. So her name is Tofa vapor trail. And Tofa means, tufa, I think is how it's pronounced in Icelandic, but it means fox. And vapor trail is kind of a play on mists, and because the revenants are real linked to the mists. And
I like it.
it's also a ride song from an early 90s band that no one's ever heard of, but excuse me. But I really started to enjoy this, and I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to check out this Chuka and Champawat. So it's a legendary short bow.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is that? Because you said the name like in chat the other night, and then I'm reading it on the notes, and I'm like,
what is that?
are these quaggins or something? Like that,
No, they're-
you know, the quaggin shield, right? Isn't that what that legendary is? It's a shield fishbowl or something.
Oh, yeah, the fishbowl shield. Yeah, that thing is dope. I should go after that at some point, too, because that thing is awesome. Listener, if you don't know, there's a legendary shield in Guild Wars 2 that is basically a quaggin fishbowl. It's a it's a huge shield, and it has water in it.
Sloshing
it's like
about.
glass encased in the back, or I guess it would be the front. And there's a little quaggin inside the fishbowl. It's just floating around. I think.
Don't know
he's
how
alive.
good it would do as a shield, but
No, but it looks hilarious and awesome.
it does. So you're working on this new legendary.
Yeah, so it's a legendary. It's named, I think, in Indonesian lore, I believe. Maybe it's Indonesia. I don't know. But there are tigers named Chuka and Champawat, and it's a play on I think real world lore, but it's a short bow that shoots out images of tigers. And
Really?
you know, when you draw it out, it has, you know, effects and all of that. And the Revenant class in particular, because this legendary was released for Heart of Thorns, and the Revenant was released for Heart of Thorns, so they're kind of interconnected a little bit. But it just made kind of sense to me. I know Stark has been going after this bow, or was going after this bow. So
Well, you are the
It is-
greatest Revenant player. So
that is true. I've become the greatest Revenant player of all time. So that, and then Tempest would be second. So,
poor Stark. He has no idea he's competing with you.
no,
He has no idea he lost the title.
yeah, this legendary is no joke. It's a lot of fun though. It's a actual literal quest. A lot of legendaries in Guild Wars 2 are get X amount of things,
Yeah.
get this, go do your. But this is a series of lengthy quests that you do. I just finished crafting the precursor. I think it is Tigris, which is an ascended bow. So
Okay.
even if I just decided to stop at this point, I've actually got an ascended weapon out of it. So it's been fun, and I've got a little tiger cub that I can put on my back now. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of clings to your back, and you can walk around and do stuff. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So I've been delving into that, and I haven't even touched any of the new stuff because it's like I said before, the new add-ons for the Secret of the Obscure started to burp, and I was trying not to burp. Is kind of locked between story progression, so I can't really bring my current new character until I do all the previous stuff. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. I might just go back and do the new stuff with my Mesmer, which is what I did Secrets of the Obscure with. So I don't know if I want to backtrack and do the entire story. Although there are masteries to be had in doing some of that stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe I will. And masteries are pretty hard to get in Secrets of the Obscure once you get to a certain point. So I'm kind of locked right now on how far I can get in the mastery track, because I don't have enough mastery points I've got the XP, I just don't have enough mastery points. So fishing for those. That's it.
That's fascinating, though, that you have been, or I guess the whole concept of how they worked this expansion in in that, most of the times, like Living Worlds or, End of Dragons, or even the original Secrets of the Obscure, when it comes out, you can jump straight to that story. But I guess you have a good point with how these new chapters or whatever are tacked on to the Secrets of the Obscure story. So if you're not playing it on a character that's done it already, you can't just jump straight to it, which I suppose makes sense because it is a continuation, and the way Secrets of the Obscure ends, well, I suppose ends in quotes because it's, again, still continuing. You would really need to go through that to kind of get the story to where it needs to be.
It just was like, oh, poop. But like I said before, I do need some mastery points, so maybe I'll just go back and redo the story, if nothing else, because I've done most of the other. I've done the map completions and all that with my Mesmer, so I won't necessarily have to focus on that. I can just focus on the story and trying to get as many mastery points as I can out of the story, and then progress till I get to the new area. So we'll see.
Nice. Well, I wish you luck with that. Eventually, I need to jump in because I need to continue the story and do my first legendary, but I'm stuck behind the world versus world mastery
I'm
thing.
sure I'll have to go do that for Chuk and Champa.
Well,
I'm sure
you
it'll
just
just be
let me
one
know.
more thing I have to do. So
just let me
might
know.
have to go in together.
Yeah, I mean, because that part's it's like a hard stop, right? Like you can do the crafting bit, like you need a ton of either gold or already have the resources, but like you can plug away at that and make the precursor. And of course, this past season of the game, when they introduced the Wizard's Vault, they had that legendary starter kit or something, and you could choose between I think it was 3 or 4 options, one of which was Meteorologicus, and it gave you one of the kind of grindy mastery, such and such mastery thing to get. And so that was great. But literally, I think the only thing I need to finish it is that World v World one. And I'm just like, okay. Eventually, I will get around to it. But
yeah, we'll make time and we'll have to do it, because I'm sure I'll have to do it again. And it was, at least on the first 2 legendaries, it's always been a little bit like, oh boy, here we go. But
especially because I'm playing as an elementalist. Maybe I should bring my mechanist in there and just, I guess, I don't know if people do that, if mechanists or people are going to complain, because people always complained. I remember when we first started playing, that was what little we knew about the game, we knew that mechanists were overpowered. And I think over the course of a year, they've maybe dialed that back. But I actually really liked my mechanist, and kind of like you, you go to play these new classes like you did with Revenant, and you're like, man, I actually kind of enjoy this. And I'm thinking that I would probably be the same way with a Guardian, or maybe actually a fully leveled warrior. Just classes that in my mind I'm like, just meh. But you actually get to playing it, and with Guild Wars 2, you go and start to grind those hero points out, start to put those points in, and then you're really experimenting with it, and you're like, man, this is actually pretty fun. So
yeah, I mean, in all fairness, this is a very what do they call it, a booster friendly build. It's all celestial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it still does pretty good damage, and it survives. I mean, you saw what I could solo in Heart of Thorns maps, hero points that I would have got torched on pretty much any other class.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whatever, just shrugging it off, just let's go,
Yeah.
And I could go, well, maybe it's not optimized for fractals and all that, but I'm not really doing, although I had to do some fractals this morning for Chuka and Champawat. So that was fun. It was just
Chewbacca.
for Chewbacca and Han. And that's what we'll call it from now on. Han and Chewbacca. But
the good times. Again, Guild Wars 2 is one of those games that you don't have to buy or you don't have to sub to play it, or like ESO's case, sub to play it because playing without ESO Plus is brutal. So it's just going to be something that, you're always going to want to go back to. And like, yeah, you know what? Might as well see what's in Guild Wars 2, what's happening, or what fun I can get up to in that game.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. It's always, I've never really, and I've, both you and I have completed most, if not all, the story up to this point. And I'm still finding really interesting, fun stuff like that I honestly had never seen before, or just, I've had to do 8 or 10 jumping puzzles just to try to get this legendary. And so that was really interesting and fun.
Ones you've done before, I presume, because you've probably done most of them, right?
Yeah, I've done most of them. There were, I think, all of them. I think I've done before at some point or another. There are a couple that I didn't remember until I got to the end, and I was like, oh yeah, I've done this.
I've done this. Nice. Well,
yeah. What about you?
Oh boy, I really haven't had a singular focus. Like you have this focus on, working through this, a new class to you, a new weapon, all that jazz. And so for me, my focus has been bouncing around all over the place. At first, Fortnite released this. I always said that like when they needed players to come back, they would release one of the old maps from 2018. Sure enough, they release an old map from 2018, which I guess they go by Chapter 1, Season 5. I think it's Chapter 1st seasons throughout that. And it's, I think they had like 44 million players on last 2 Saturdays ago, or whenever they first launched it. Like, it was insane. And so I've been playing that, the zero build, because I am simply not good enough to play build in that game. But with the Battle Royale, and it's been a ton of fun, especially playing on mouse and keyboard now, as opposed to when I played on Xbox and on TV. I'm really enjoying it now with our friend Tempest, Weevil, but also some of my college friends as well. Beyond that, Final Fantasy XIV, I did finally cave, and it was partially you, partially Tempest, and I was like, you know what, my monk is level 38. I am at the level 23 or 24 MSQ, or main story quest for Weevil. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I really may as well, like, I know how to play my monk up to the level it is. I may as well just go and level another class or job, because one, you can do that. You can do that all on one character, which is brilliant. But two, the XP that I, like, once I get to that MSQ, the XP is going to be beneficial to that class, because I'll be leveling them at the same time. So I went and grabbed Thaumaturge, which is basically the polar opposite of Pugilist or Monk, in that you stand in one spot and you've got casting times. Whereas Monk is just do as much damage as you humanly possible, spam your buttons the second global cooldown ends. And so Thaumaturge is fun. I like the quest line for it so far. And I mean, we're talking like real basic stuff, because it's all base game. But I did finally get that to level 24 or 25, which is the level that my MSQ is at, or I'm at on the MSQ. And so I've done all the Thaumaturge quests up until that point, like every 5 levels. And so I'm guessing at level 30 I can go to Black Mage. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my goal is I'm going to use that as I'm playing the MSQ, and then once that and Monk and the MSQ are all kind of at the same level, I'll probably switch back to Monk or go back and forth depending. But I mean, I really like the Monk, and the idea is eventually like I'm going to play the Monk, and then once I unlock Samurai, go the Samurai route, I think. But that's Final Fantasy, and then I've recently got back into Risk of Rain 2, which is a roguelite FPS action shooter, and it's a ton of fun. I loved it when I started playing in May of this year, but recently Tempest and I got Weevil into it, and Weevil played it with us the other night, and I think he enjoyed himself. It's a lot to learn, really, like right out of the gate, especially when enemies are just getting thrown at you and you're trying to survive. And when you die in that game, like you go in runs, right? So you start out in one stage, you go through it, you go to the teleporter, you do the teleporter event, and then you go through the teleporter to the next stage. You can do that pretty much as you want, but the game gets, there's like this scrolling difficulty meter, and the longer your run is, the harder it gets overall. But at the same time, like your abilities and your build with all these items you're picking up are going to get stronger and more broken and all this stuff. So, so there's a higher difficulty, but you're also more powerful. And then there's a high risk and reward, because if you spend an hour in this run, you might be fighting off stuff that can one-shot you, but you might also be able to one-shot it. But if you die, you don't beat it. So
yeah,
it's a ton of fun. I did cancel my Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, I guess, pre-purchase. One, it's getting just terrible reviews, and I guess the single player campaign is only like 3 hours, and I don't think anybody really buys a new Call of Duty for the single player. Like, it's mostly for the multiplayer, or like the paid parts of the multiplayer, like the DMZ with zombies and all that. But it's really disappointing for them to put out this $70 DLC with a 3-hour single player campaign just for an updated multiplayer. And this was like, done previous to the acquisition. So hopefully Microsoft kind of figures out the new cadence for Call of Duty, because they desperately need a refresh and a reset. But who knows? It's Call of Duty, right?
Yeah, It sounds like they've fallen into the EA trap of we're going to release a Madden game every year and a new NHL game, and they're basically going to be the same thing with updated rosters. And enjoy, for $70 you can get this. So,
yeah, you'd think it would be easier to buy like a season pass, right? Like release one game, make it a live service game, and let's take Madden as an example. Release Madden
or FIFA,
yeah. Release this game, make it a live service game, and then all you have to do is pay us, $15 to $20 to reset the roster every year.
Yeah,
but why would they do that when they can charge people $70 for a brand new game and people pay for it?
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. People need to stop paying for them, I guess. I've stopped paying for them a while ago. I just I can't do it. I'm not doing it anymore. It's just, I like playing those games too. I like playing NHL. I like playing NFL football. I even like playing FIFA. That's kind of where my sports game stuff stops. Begins and stops. But if they could focus on really making kick-ass games every 2 or 3 years instead of every single year, there's no need for that. Just put out some updated rosters, fix bugs, whatever, live service, blah blah blah, and just exactly what you said, just $20 next year. The new Madden roster comes out beginning of August or late July, or right before preseason, and then you're off to the races.
But people pay the $70 and the $100 for the
same for COD too. So
yeah, it's so this time I refunded it, and then I put that money towards a new vacuum because our vacuum broke. So pure 100% adult right there.
Yeah. Well, COD doesn't clean up pretzel crumbs off the floor.
Yeah.
So.
Or whales or whatever else the kids are eating. Okay. Well, that's what I've been up to. That's what Shiloh's been up to. Let's dig into, we got really one news topic with kind of a follow-up. And that news topic is specifically the Golden Joysticks, which is an awards show, a video game award show that took place last weekend, I think, or sometime last week, within the last episode and obviously this episode. And our boys at Larian Studio, boys and girls at Larian Studio, got a clean sweep, I think. They won every award they were nominated for, which was 7, I think. So let me read this for all of us. So this article comes from Eurogamer, but they're saying that Baldur's Gate 3 has swept the board at the 2023 Golden Joystick Awards. They secured wins for the best storytelling, best visual design, studio of the year, best game community, that's us, PC game of the year, and the ultimate game of the year. Also, Neil Newman, who plays Asterion, took home the award for best supporting performer. So that's, 7 awards? It's insane. I mean, that's like Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's original trilogy, like The Fellowship or whatever. Or one of those movies won like...
Yeah, not The Fellowship. That was always a big point of contention with...
With The Fellow... Or with...
The Fellowship didn't win a whole lot, and so they finally eventually had to cave in.
Is that the Oscars that is the movie one, or is it the Grammys?
No, Oscars, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
So it didn't win, though, The Fellowship.
Didn't win a whole lot. Not as much as it should have.
Which one did then? Two Towers or Return?
Don't remember. Might have been Return.
Which is the better one of the two? Well, as far as a movie goes, I think.
Yeah, they're all good. But yeah, I'm looking through the winners here, but that is very, very heavy on
Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate. Final Fantasy 16 has a few here that best lead performer, best audio.
Yes. But then it's worth noting that Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty won Best Game Expansion. Mm-hmm. So that's a game where, like, I own it. I own the expansion. They're sitting in my Steam library. I just don't know when I want to get around to do it, because I want to devote my time to it. And plus, I'm going to have to play through the whole game again. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge, but yeah, so this is the quick rundown, aside from what Baldur's Gate 3 won, which in my opinion was well-deserved. That game is the game of the decade so far, with, in my opinion, Elden Ring coming in second, if we're chalking up all the 2020 to 2023 games so far. But Best Storytelling, BG3, Still Playing Award, No Man's Sky, Best Visual Design, BG3. Studio of the Year, Larian. Best Game Expansion, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty. Best Indie Game, Sea of Stars. That game I have played, and it is very good. Best VR Game, Horizon Call of the Mountain. That must be a hunting game, maybe? Or something to that effect?
I don't think it has anything to do with Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't see how they could... make that into a VR game.
Who knows?
That would be pretty cool if they could. But
Best multiplayer game is Mortal Kombat 1. So this must be like a reboot of the series, huh?
I guess.
I don't
really play fighting games.
Yeah. Best audio, like you said, Final Fantasy 16. Best game trailer, Phantom Liberty. Best streaming game, Valorant, which is a Riot game I've never played, but it's kind of like apparently if Counter-Strike and Overwatch had a baby.
Yeah, Spin was playing that
he was
the other night with his kid. Yeah,
he said he didn't do terrible, But,
Yeah, must be hard.
yeah. Well,
I
Counter-Strike
guess
is hard.
He said it was very twitchy, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a big no for me.
That's a.
I wouldn't stand a chance.
And I'm out the door. That's like the
And
meme of when is it Homer Simpson's dad walks into the church and then walks right back out.
Yeah, that would be me.
That's Shiloh. Best game community BG3. Best gaming hardware is the PSVR 2. I've never. Have you ever played a virtual reality game like with the headset?
My brother has one.
Okay.
I played Skyrim, and it was very cool. It's hard with glasses on, but it's also very. I could see how people get sick, and I don't get motion sickness that.
Was it where you stood up in like a middle of a living room and played, or were you like sat down?
Yeah, no, you have to. I had to stand because it's sword combat. I think I picked a bow because I figured that would be a little bit easier, but it still was very intuitive. But I liked the idea of being able to just play a VR game with a bow. It sounded like fun.
Yeah,
and it's cool with Skyrim because it is first person. I mean, you technically should play that game first person, and it feels good, as a VR game.
It's the way of the future, I think, honestly. Like, that's where gaming is headed, and I don't think we're quite there yet, but you're going to start seeing those VR games with better graphics, all that stuff.
Yeah. Once they can really hone in on technology and it's probably off to the races with all that.
Yeah. Breakthrough award is Cocoon Geometric Interactive. Cocoon, I think, is a game that I remember seeing on one of the Xbox showcases. I don't know much about it. Critics' Choice Award, Alan Wake 2, by our favorite Remedy, whoever did Control. It's not Respawn. I think it's Remedy.
Yeah. That game looks good.
It does look good. Best lead performer, Ben Starr for Final Fantasy 16. Best supporting performer, we said Neil Newbon. The article has him spelled differently in two different places. Nintendo Game of the Year is Tears of the Kingdom, which I always said was probably going to be will be a contender for Game of the Year at the Game Awards. I still think BG3 is going to win. PC Game of the Year, BG3. Xbox Game of the Year, Starfield. Now, in
Redfall?
Certainly not. But it also begs the question, well, they didn't have many other games that were big. Like Nintendo, everything on Nintendo is basically, proprietary. PlayStation's Game of the Year was Resident Evil 4, which is a remake. So I think the real winner out of those three, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, is Nintendo. I mean, they're putting out a game. You literally can only play Tears of the Kingdom on a Switch. And, it's actually, like, worthwhile. Whereas, like, Starfield is a good game, for sure, but, like, there was no other competition. PlayStation Game of the Year being Resident Evil 4, like, that's kind of surprising, because I would think that the Spider-Man 2 or there's something else that came out this year that people were Final Fantasy 16, and then this next one's most wanted game.
Why didn't Final Fantasy 16 win that? It's not even out on PC. It's certainly not on an Xbox.
I don't know. Because Resident Evil 4 wins, which
they got it there. Yeah.
We used to have this conversation with GG Party Chat, like, should a game be able to, now this is understandable because these are games specific to that console, but like for the Ultimate Game of the Year award, which again for Golden Joysticks, BG3 won, should a game be allowed to win that award if it's only playable on like specific consoles? Now, originally, I think I would have taken the side of no, it shouldn't be able, like, if you can only play it on PlayStation or you can only play it on Xbox, it shouldn't be able to win the game of the year. But then as I've matured and, you know, realized, like, well, but like the reality is, like, if this game is really the best game and people can only play it on a specific console, it's not fair to like exclude it from you know, something. So like, for instance, when The Last of Us or something won, God of War, no, maybe the original God of War, like, that was, you know, the game of the year for that year. Just because it was only on PlayStation doesn't, like, I don't know. I don't feel like it's right to say you can't have something win because it's not on all the different consoles, because otherwise half the stuff would never win because half of it's never on Nintendo consoles. So it's it is what it is. But anyway, most wanted game was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I do find that interesting. And then, of course, the ultimate game of the year is Baldur's Gate 3. No big surprise there. And then the tag on to this whole topic is that, of course, tomorrow, or if you're listening to this episode on release day, today, the nominees for the Game Awards are going to be announced. So we are doing an episode on the Game Awards. We'll do it like, I think it's going to come out the week before the show. We're going to go through all the nominations, choose our picks, and then we'll see if we're right in the following episode, or my following episode might be the Christmas one. So we'll see, but we're going to discuss that in the future. For now, because we need to carry on our wayward sons, let us dive into, let me close all this stuff. Let us dive into this. So you said, Shiloh, you've kind of been out of Eorzea for a bit.
Yes.
I have not. I, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, have dove into the thaumaturge job. But one thing that I find interesting is that as I'm diving into this and largely just going around the same zones I went around with the pugilist, still don't know how it's pronounced.
Pugilist, yeah.
One thing I really like about this game specifically is that you meet these characters and there is a good emphasis put on these characters, their personalities, everything. It's enjoyable as someone who kind of wants to be able to connect to the world that the developers and the director, you know, have created. And so today we're going to talk about the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, although very briefly because I'm still getting to know them. But I wanted to ask you, as like a little bit of an icebreaker before we continue this whole Final Fantasy XIV topic, do you have a favorite zone in the game that you could kind of just comes to your head? So you and I both have had, like, we probably could list our favorite zone for ESO, which, just off topic, what is your favorite zone in ESO? Is it just Vardenfell? That whole island?
Yeah, probably Vardenfell.
Because of the mushrooms. He's a mushroom guy.
Yeah, and the story and wardens that's where my mains
came from.
Mains is the operative word with an S. Have all been wardens, but
so Guild Wars 2.
Probably. I'm trying to think of other zones. Well, we'll just go with Vardenfell.
Yeah. What about Guild Wars 2? I feel like we mentioned this maybe on the long Guild Wars 2 episode. I don't remember what you said, though. I think mine was like Crystal Oasis or something, because Amnoon and just that was like the first time I felt like a desert zone in an MMO felt like a proper desert zone. So,
yeah, you still need to see Brimstone.
I do need to see it.
Really but yeah, that's up there. Although seeing that big statue of Paolo Joko in Desolation, I think it is.
Either that or
There's some
Jahai
really-
Bluffs. I don't remember where. But yeah.
There's one in Desolation near the gates, I think. I think it's Desolation. Maybe it's the Elon Riverlands. I don't know. But probably one of the ore maps, I think that's what I said last time.
Yeah, it's coming back to me. I think you did.
Because those are just so interesting. There's lots of lore and just seeing what happened and kind of uncovering stuff, and it's just visually really, really interesting. And each one is a little bit different, but they're very similar in the architecture. That it's most of it is broken down and destroyed. But yeah.
Okay, so with that predilection, whatever. What would your favorite zone be in Final Fantasy XIV? Of all the ones you've been to, not just base game, but like all of the ones that you've quested in and whatever.
See, this is going to be hard because I don't know if I necessarily remember the names.
The names are hard in this game, for sure.
Yeah.
They're
Stormblood
challenging.
near the end of Stormblood had some really, really interesting maps that I liked.
Okay.
But I couldn't tell you the names of a lot of them. And I don't want to spoil much for you in particular because you're kind of a ways out from that.
Mm-hmm.
But or maybe not. Maybe you'll get there tomorrow. Probably not. But maybe by the end of the year, who knows? It's there was some really there's a lot of floaty stuff in both Heavensward, and they're very strange. Like I can't really
Like more alien than everything in Guild Wars 2. I still think so. Like even the Secrets of the Obscure Zones, it feels very grounded.
feels rooted in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of these
Same with
are
ESO,
very,
I would say.
very high not even high fantasy, flighty fantasy, I guess you could call
Space
it.
fantasy.
Final fantasy. There you go.
Yeah.
Because some of them are just straight up goofy. Is probably the best word that I can think of.
Like the golden saucer, the gold saucer, whatever.
There's one with the little floaty dudes. The
Sylphs?
no, well, there's some not sylphs. The little what are they? The ones that call you Puka.
That I don't know.
The crap. I'll come up with it. I'll have to look it up.
Oh, the ones with the little like
The Moogles.
antenna.
Moogles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moggles.
Yeah, there's a whole zone that has a little Moogle colony. That's kind of a lot of fun.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Some of those zones at the end of Stormblood are really cool. There's one for the turtle race. It's mainly a lot the Ruby Sea, I think is the name of
Okay.
the zone. It's very water oriented. It has some pretty interesting. Actually, you know what? I thought exactly what it is. It's the I think it's the Azure Steppes. It's a beautiful valley area. It has lots of aura, the little lizard half characters that you can play in the game.
Oh, yeah.
NPCs. There are two kind of opposing factions of the sun and the moon of the aura that are kind of, and you have to kind of play the side of the mediator, and has to do with the story to get something unlocked. And that whole area was a lot of fun and very, very pretty and kind of relaxing. And the music was top notch in that zone. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, as someone who's not very far, my zones are all base game. But there is one that has stuck out to me for a feature of it. And that is, I think it's called Upper La Nausea, and it's because it's the dungeon Satasha. I don't remember what La Nausea that is, whatever. But if you go on past that cave and continue north, you go into this other Limsa zone. And there's this like big dragon skeleton that's kind of like uncovered in the mud. And it's just like this feature, and it's like kind of like foresty or jungly, but with this, and you can go on up on top of it and everything. And I really like that. With that said, there was, and it might be southern Thanalin, there's like this part of it that was just like this giant sand dune. And I got smoked because I was only like level 20 something at the time, and these things were like level 30 out there. But it was like really neat to just walk past and like, again, find myself in like what felt like a desert. Like an actual in-game desert. I didn't explore too far because, again, it was too low level, but I really liked the feeling of it. As far as, like, city goes, I think Limsa is the easy choice because it's got that, like, sea piratey vibe. But I really like Gerdania and the surrounding shroud that's around it because it just feels very, like in ESO, you think of the wood elves. Like, it feels very wood elf-like. Maybe even more so than some of the, like, Valenwood from Elder Scrolls. But it just feels like foresty, and then that was kind of where I first started on my bard or my archer once upon a time. But so that's probably my pick. I can't wait. Like, this is one thing that I always love in games is just exploring and getting to see a ton of these new, locations. The new music, like you said, the locations, the quests, the characters, the returning characters that pop up in these zones. That's one of my favorite parts of MMOs altogether, I think, is that exploration. But
yeah.
Well, I can't wait to get to the Azure Coast. Is that what you said it was called?
Azure Steppes.
Okay, I think the other one is like the WoW one from Dragonflight or something.
Yeah.
Azure Woods or something. Yeah. Okay. Well,
maybe it's not. I'll look it up.
Gotcha. So, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, Shiloh. These are kind of like, and listener, if you're new to the show, I'm new to Final Fantasy XIV. So a lot of my discussion surrounding elements of Final Fantasy XIV is going to be relating it to the stuff I know. So if I'm correct, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are kind of like Dragon's Watch from Guild Wars 2, or what was Kaith's and Logan's and Ritlock's guild called originally? I don't remember.
Oh, the
Destiny's Edge. That's it.
Destiny's Edge.
So is that kind of the vibe, Shiloh? Is the Scions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I think is really good. Like, you get introduced to this this group in both games, and then they are the characters that your character's story is going to center around. And so in Final Fantasy XIV, I think it's around level 20, you get introduced to these Scions, which real briefly are effectively an order that was formed by the Circle of Knowing coming together with the Path of the 12, which is two different groups that I don't have time to, and really the knowledge to even dive into, but it was following the 7th Umbral era. And if I am understanding things correctly, that's when the game was put on hiatus, taken offline. It's that scene, right, that you see, that like cutscene with, and I'm gonna butcher this guy's name, Louis Sois. Louis, is that how it's pronounced?
Louis Sois. Yeah. Oh, I looked up. It's the Azim Steppe.
The Azim Steppes. Is it like deserty, like savanna-y?
No, it's like kind of a not tundra. But
Okay.
think of a real peaceful. I guess it would be like a steppe, like almost like a valley between mountains. In the Far East, that's what it is. That's what it's supposed to resemble, and that's what it does resemble. Is something like that.
Well, I can't wait to see it then.
Yep.
So Louis Soix, this game's version of Gandalf or Dumbledore, as far as I can tell. I just know you see him at the end of the cutscene doing some magic of some variety, and what I presume happens is he saves the land from complete annihilation. And so the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are formed from him, or from that event, with this marrying of these two groups. And so, of course, you are then recruited because of your proficiency with the Echo, which I'm still fully, or not fully understanding, because I'm still going through it. And as of right now, this group, much like Destiny's Edge and Guild Wars 2, or what were they called in ESO with the Prophet and Titanborn and Saisahan and all those people? I don't remember their name. So they didn't have a good name then.
Companions or
the Companions. And that whole bit of story in ESO, like there's a backstory to it. But so it's the same concept here. And as of now, the Scions kind of are just peacekeepers throughout the land, like kind of like the Jedi Order of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so
NATO.
Yeah. And so currently, the only thing I've been doing is parlaying with what they call the beast races to keep them from summoning primals, which I guess means bad news.
To do.
Yeah, which is bad news for the world, I guess. I have already stopped one primal, which is Ifrit, like this giant fire demon thing. And we're going to get to that later in Dad of Light, because I realized something, about it. Anyway, so these Scions, I want to list them, and then you can kind of tell me what you think of them. But Thancred,
yeah,
I feel like he's
you want me to like give approval or thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, I don't know. Sure. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think of Thancred? Do you like him? He seems to me like he's the main character of them, so to speak. But maybe that's because with Pugilist you start in Ul'dah and he's the one you interact with.
Yeah. The nice thing about the way the game does a lot of the main characters is they weave them in and out of stories.
Okay.
So much like a book plot, much like a really well-crafted TV series, you'll see Thancred quite a bit, and then you won't see him for a little while because he'll be off doing something else, and your story is focused on X thing while he's doing something else. And he's not like retconned or anything like that. They mention him and what he's doing. He's playing his part, but you don't necessarily see all the different Scions. You don't see them all generally. Sometimes in one room like you do at the beginning. So
yeah, okay. Well, I like him. One thing I find interesting is they all are different classes or jobs, which is I don't remember if that was the way was in ESO, but
you'll find out they switch a little bit too.
Okay.
As the story goes on, Thancred has different jobs. Urianger, the guy with the robe and the sandals, the Jesus elf, as I like to call him. He actually becomes astrologian. I mean, there's different. They all have different jobs, or they'll pick up different jobs. Even Yashoda will pick up different jobs other than White Mage. So
okay,
you'll get to see some of these characters the NPC characters in the game develop different skill sets and jobs as time goes on as well.
Well, I like that because it reminds me of the way Guild Wars 2 did it, where like these characters that you were interacting with were an actual class that you could play. It brings more identity to these classes. So like if you think of, in Guild Wars 2, you think of Mesmer, people are going to think of either Lady Queen Jenna or Lady Casimir. And then there's several others because Mesmer's like feels like the most popular one by NPC standards. But then certainly important for you, the Revenant was Ritlock, and that's kind of like a, I guess, Heart of Thorns spoilers, but this game's been out for 10 years. But like that's a big deal. And so I think it's fascinating to see that like Thancred evolves and changes his job. And then you were saying Elf Jesus, what's his name? How would you pronounce that? Yuri Anger?
No, Urianger.
Okay.
Which I've heard people comment like, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. It's more Urianger's speech because he is the most old English of this game. Sometimes with its language just cracks me up. I think I was talking to Tempest about this. I'm like, oh boy. Here we go with Urianger's speech. It's like, in thou in thy bosom, by seeing. I'm like, what in the hell what are you on, man? Get off peyote. Because there's some language in this game that just cracks me up. It's just so funny. And I guess it's done on purpose, or I don't think it's
his character or something.
Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be funny, but it's just, it cracks me up every single time. Like, just like, whoa, where did that come from? Yeah.
Do you like him, or is he just a little annoying?
I won't go into that.
Okay.
That becomes a little spoilery, but I don't know.
We'll see. Okay.
I'm still, and like I said, I haven't gone through everything in the game yet, so I'm still early into Shadowbringers. But he's gone from to for me. That's what I'll say on Urianger.
Okay. So next up is Yida and Papalomo. Papalomu.
Ida, yeah.
How do you pronounce her little Lalafell companion?
Papala, I don't know.
Papa. We're just going to call him
I don't
Papa.
like him. I don't want to spoil too much. Her story, I can't really say too much, but you will find out more about Ida.
Okay.
And certainly the little Lalafell dude.
Papa.
And Stormblood.
Okay. Fascinating.
A lot of her, yeah. That's all I'll say.
Well, I remember those two specifically from when I played that Archer. So that's what I was saying with Thancred. Like, he was kind of, to me, the main one this time in my mind, because my pugilist obviously starts in Ul'dah. And if you're Archer, you start in Gridania, and Ida and Papa, you can call me Papa, are the Gridania
little Pop
characters. Okay, so those two have some things. Okay, well then, of course, like next up is Tempest's favorite, which is Y'shtola. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Y'shtola.
The cat girl who, she's a conjurer originally. Where I'm at in the story, she's a conjurer, I guess. She seems fun. She seems like she doesn't have much to say so far. So
she will. She'll plays a big part in the story going forward. So
okay,
see that. I won't spoil that.
Yeah,
she's definitely a little bad A.
She's a baddie, as the young kids say.
No, badass. Sorry.
No, that's what that is. That was like teenage speak for you. You should go up next time you're at work and you've got those like little, the teenagers or the younger crowd working. Just be like, hey, do you think so and so's a baddie? And they'll just be like, what are you on, old man?
Yeah. Shut up.
Anyway.
OMG. What are you doing?
So she's your favorite then?
Yeah, one of them.
Okay.
Out of the Scions, yeah.
With Thancred up there too. Okay.
I don't think I'd throw Thancred in there, but he grows on you, and he's a.
So he's like dude. Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean, where you're like,
he's more. He's Minfilia's protector, or was, or is, or I won't really say, but he was kind of sworn to, in his mind or whatever, just to protect her.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Y'shtola. Next up, and this is where I'm like, I don't know if I like these two. Alphanod and Alisei. They are apparently and this I don't know in game, but by reading this wiki, they are grandchildren of Louisoix. I just know that like when I was going to the different Grand Company like speeches, they kept popping up, and I was like, who are these annoying elf children that are following me around? The chick is like just super like pessimistic, and the dude Alphanod is like just waxing poetic at everything that's being said, and I'm like, my guy, I'm here for a speech. What are you doing?
Yo, chill out.
Just chill out. But apparently they're important. So
they are, and they are very grating to me. Is the operative word. They grow on you and you kind of see them grow up a little bit.
That's what I was gonna wonder.
Story goes on. They may not look any different, but they do act different. And they go through some stuff, and they kind of grow on you. So yeah.
Okay, well,
that's what I'll say about them. They do grow on you, and they're pretty integral to the story. So you're almost forced to like them at some point, or you're just gonna hate yourself and uninstall. I guess I don't know, but yeah, it's not that you have to like them. You do end up liking them, I think. Most people, I guess. Unless you do uninstall them. That can't get over them, but yeah.
Interesting. Well, then the final one, best I can tell, because I don't think I'm forgetting anybody, is Minfilia. And she seems cool. I think, like, of all of these so far, Thancred, Y'shtola, and Minfilia are my favorites. I don't know much about her, but obviously, like I said, I'm just getting started. But do we like Minfilia? Is she cool?
Oh, yeah.
Or is there spoilers involved?
And there are spoilers, but she's cool. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Okay. Apparently, she had a different story before A Realm Reborn, and then when that happened, she came back. Or maybe this is all technically the same. I guess that's a good point with all of this, and we talked about it a bit last episode, but like they literally wrote into the game's lore, the world's lore, the re-release of the game. Yeah, which is fascinating to me.
The downfall of their previous iteration of the game.
Which, if I'm understanding it correctly, there's like a 5-year gap between...
I think so.
Between A Realm Reborn and the events that predated the calamity, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's... fascinating. But yeah, so that's all the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. I'm not reading any further in on this wiki because it's just
Yeah, I
going
don't do
straight
that.
into the story. But there's a ton of notable members that I didn't click on. Someone named there's Tataru, which is kind of like the I guess
The secretary.
The secretary, yeah. She's a little
She's more
Lalafell.
than that, but she's
Yeah, and then there's
she's actually a decent Lalafell. Like if there was only one Lalafell in the
I'd be
world,
fine with her.
it should just be Tutaru. And the
That's
rest of
funny.
them just die off, I guess.
Sorry. She's great. Where I'm at in the story, like a sylph randomly appears in your I guess the Waking Sands place, and she like turns around and freaks out. I'm scared her, which is great. But then they're saying, so this list has like Moen Bride, Wilf Sunwin. No idea who that is. Do you know who that is? Or did I butcher the name that bad?
I'm guessing it's probably the row commander from the Maelstrom in
No, this
Limsa.
person.
Oh no.
She is.
Oh, I know who it is. That's kind of a spoiler.
Okay, I will not read
I
any
think.
further. Then there is Arenvald Lentinus, Naraxia, Flehamen Kesh, Krillmayer Baldasian. These names are brutal. Real Forest, Grahatia, and Estinian Wormblood. So
Estinian. Yeah.
some of these you probably don't even know if they're like really late.
Well,
into the-
Estinian. That name is definitely a big one.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like when games do this. They set up. It's a really easy way to introduce a cast of characters to just have your player character join this secret or prolific company or group or whatever. But it makes sense, for a game like this where they need to introduce a ton of characters that you're going to see pop up in different parts of the game. Like think Guild Wars 2 again. Like Logan, anytime you do human-related things, Logan's probably there. And if we get later on, like Lady Kashmir, Marjorie, but like anything Azura, Taimi, or Zoja, but that was, I guess,
Goric, yeah.
yeah, or Goric. Obviously, anything with the Char, Ritlock is there, along with what's her face. No idea. She joins the Almacron or Olacommon. No, the
Altmora?
no, she's the Char chick that is in. She's like Brahm's friend. What's her name? Rocks.
Oh, Rocks.
Duh. So like same concept here, right?
Everyone always forgets about Rocks.
Well, because she kind of got left behind with
yeah, she's like, "Hey,
Ice Brood,
guys."
which is weird because that was a Char centric thing. But she left kind of Ascalon and went down towards I can't pronounce their name. That little nomadic tribe of Char that's in the Isles, Living World Season 4 and stuff. So anyway, this concept is the same in Final Fantasy, like we said. Like Thancred is Ul'dah and Thanalin. You've got Yida and Papa in Gridania. Apparently Y'shtola is Limsa Lominsa areas. I don't know where Elvis Jesus, I mean. Not Elvis.
Just always
Jesus Elf, where he
always
appears.
stationed at the Waking Sands. So
Yeah.
they just keep him there.
And then these like little elf children that are
They're everywhere.
running around in the same exact outfit. You could barely tell them apart. Actually, I probably couldn't, honestly. Other than the voice. It makes for good storytelling because it kind of ties some identity to a specific area. Like Y'shtola being a Makote, like, okay, maybe there's a lot of Makote in Limsa Lominsa area. Not just because it's Limsa Lominsa and people like cat girls, but just in general, that like same thing with Thanalin and Thancred and so on and so forth. And so I'm excited to learn more. as I've always been told, like the story in Final Fantasy XIV is pretty spectacular, especially like the later on you get. And I'm sure all these characters will play into it. And it'll be interesting to see once I have experienced much of it. I wonder who's going to show up in Dawn Trail. So we shall find out. But that's I guess the primer for the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. Shall we talk about Dad of Light, Shiloh? Okay, I don't want to queue up. This is not a book report. This is really the only tie-in to this game that's official, that as far as I know of. And if you've never heard of it, listener, Dad of Light is a live-action show, Japanese show that you can watch on Netflix right now about Final Fantasy XIV. And so do you want to set up the premise, Shiloh, and then we can get into what we think about it?
Sure. So the show is set up like I would equate it to either like a Japanese, not a soap opera, but like a sitcom.
Yeah, I was trying to find that word too, like, because it's like got a comedy element to it for sure. So
but it has some heart to it. It's a very, very good, lighthearted, but with some deeper elements. So the premise is a younger boy who grows up in Japan, has a father that has a typical job, working for ex-employer or whatever. has a hard time, but goes home, and him and his dad kind of identify with gaming, kind of in a different way. So he buys his son, who's I don't remember what Final Fantasy game he buys.
Just one of the original,
one of the OG Final Fantasy games, and kind of falls head over heels in love with these with Final Fantasy.
Because the dad's like Final Fantasy, and then the kid's like Final Fantasy.
Fantasy.
So it's funny. And it's a heavy. I mean, it's all in Japanese, so you're getting you're reading subtitles.
Yeah, it's all subtitled for us non-Japanese speaking people. But it's a very, very warm-hearted, amusing look. But the neat thing is, the kid grows up, as Final Fantasy games go on, he plays through those. His dad keeps getting older. We all do. And the kid's now a younger adult, probably in his early 20s, I'm guessing, and he still lives at home, and because I'm sure rent in Tokyo or wherever they're living is crazy. So he still lives at home with his mom and dad, and his dad one day just decides to quit his job. Like there's kind of this hint at maybe he's not feeling well or something. But he just decides to leave his job, and his mom kind of freaks out. They're wondering what they're going to do, but his son decides, well, since my dad's evidently retiring now, or we don't know exactly what he's going to do, but he just kind of just stares at stuff. So he buys his dad a PlayStation and buys him a copy of A Realm Reborn, because when they were growing up, his dad would get into playing Final Fantasy with, his son. And so he wants to kind of bond with his dad, because they've kind of drifted apart as years go on, as kind of sons and fathers and all that kind of, it's very, very poignant and good. But, so his dad, it's just a funny little sitcom about their interactions now. So his dad has a PlayStation set up in their living room and has a controller and is trying to play this online game with his son, who he doesn't know that his son is basically up in his room or over to the side in his room on his PC playing with his father, and there's this little running thing of him, the kid and his friends, deciding they're going to help his dad out.
Yep.
And so his dad makes his new little character, and he names it Indy Jones, which is really funny.
Well, he was going to name it like Inoue or something, which is some Japanese thing. And then his son's like, no, you got to think like movie star. And so the next shot is Indy Jones. It's obviously Indiana Jones. Yeah. But I did want to add, because what's fascinating is like, this is very much like the whole premise of this wouldn't work in American culture. Like, it's entirely Japanese culture, because like if I quit even at older, like if I quit my job suddenly, my wife would have the reason why out of me in like 5 minutes, and my kids would just straight up ask like, well, why'd you quit your job? But in Japanese culture, there's a heavy emphasis on respect towards your elders, respect toward like your boss. And that's some stuff you see in the show too.
Privacy, and it's very
and so
Norwegian
they don't just
culture and Japanese culture very much like that. It's just very introverted, and you don't really come out and that's
talk about your business. Yeah,
very respectful in that way, for good or worse. I would consider it for good, but whatever. But anyway, so it's just really funny. So the way that this show is done is it will show his dad playing the game, and it will show his dad's character in the game on your screen. So you'll be able to you get these flashes of the actual game intermixed with the story of the actual sitcom. So they're kind of blended in together. So the sitcom takes place partly in Eorzea, and then the rest of the time in actual Tokyo, in real life, quote unquote. So it's just a very, very well done. It's definitely worth a watch if you're into Final Fantasy XIV, if you're into Final Fantasy, even if you're just into gaming, or if you just want a lighthearted,
very lighthearted
show about a father and son relationship, and how it kind of equates to how I kind of got back in touch with my father when, I was like, well, let me reach out and try to grab something that my dad loves. And that's why I kind of gravitated towards woodworking. And so it's something that my dad and I can kind of bond over and share, other than the Minnesota Vikings and Tennessee Titans. And I mean, there are other things that my dad and I could bond over, but it was something fun and cool that we could do together. And I think that that's important for any father and son, especially as time goes on. You kind of lose track. People, even friends start to lose track of each other, and the way they're going, and the way their interests kind of will branch off and do other things. So it's a good, very, very good show on that. And I would hope they come out with another season, because you're kind of left on a cliffhanger a little bit. But I could also see them not really continuing down that path.
Yeah.
So.
It is very lighthearted. Like, it's not like we've talked about Arcane and even like Edge Runners.
It reminds me a lot of The Guild. So if you've ever watched...
I haven't watched that.
So Felicia Day, who...
Yeah.
Everyone should know Felicia Day at this point, but that was kind of her start, was a show... I want to say it was... I don't know if it was a Netflix show, like one of the OG Netflix shows, or... I don't remember. But it's a very similar premise. It's a group of friends that have a guild, and they don't really go out and say it's World of Warcraft, but it's fairly
obvious.
It's pretty assumed that it is kind of World of Warcraft. But they have a guild in World of Warcraft, and it's these group of friends and their interactions online and away from online. Because I think they all live in the same city, because they have they all come together at certain parts. It's very, very good. I should rewatch that too, because it's very funny and good. But it's very lighthearted, and it's just a good gamer show.
Well, like, we've talked about Arcane, we've talked about Edge Runners. Both of those are very very serious adaptions of their material. Obviously, Arcane is a very serious look at Vi and Jinx, and then Edge Runners is a very serious look at what life is like in Night City. This is the polar opposite. This is a very lighthearted, comedic adaptation, if you will, of Final Fantasy 14. But like Shiloh said, like it's straight up actual game footage. And so the one thing that really struck me is like early on, there's a scene where Akio, the son's friends are like, danger, like your father's in danger. And he like had walked out of Gridania and immediately started fighting those treants. And if you've ever played Final Fantasy 14, you know that in that area is like level 3 or level 1 like ladybugs and something else, and then there's like a level 12 treant. And so you can just all of a sudden, and it's not aggressive, so that's good, but like you can just accidentally start combat with this thing and then just get smoked. So it's hilarious to watch this in game because it's very much like dramatized and drawn out, and this is his son, like the son's chance to save his father, and then his father's Indy Jones, you know, the character, and the son's character can become friends in game, and then so on and so forth. And you know, with his whole plot being, he wants to find out what his dad quit his job for, and so you know he's going to befriend his dad in this game to ask his dad what he quit his job for. And so it's just a very, like you said, lighthearted look at the game. And it also really touches on, in my opinion, that element of Final Fantasy 14, which is that people treat it like a alternate reality, like a secondary world they just hang out in. And I don't think a lot of MMOs do that, or really the communities in these MMOs don't necessarily do that. Like in ESO, people don't really hang out. You're grinding dungeons or trials. In Guild Wars 2, like you can hang out in Guild Wars 2, and people do, but there's so much to do with people in that game that like you're probably doing an event, a meta event or something, or like we said earlier, World v World, whatever. But in this game, like you can group up for dungeons through the duty finder and everything. But like there's the scenes where the son's character and all his friends are just hanging out, and I'm assuming what is someone's house in game, and just chatting and plotting about how to befriend his father. And it's just really enjoyable. And it's really great to see like that sort of old school MMO vibe. I really enjoy it. The last thing I wanted to mention was they actually fight Ifrit in the show. And when I got to that, I was like, oh, I actually fought, like, I know what that is. And it was easy. And so I think either they're doing it in the game, because I think you can do stuff on, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like a nightmare mode or something.
Hard, extreme, or there's another one. I don't know.
So either they're just really bad or they're doing it on one of those hard modes in game. But I did it for the story with Tempest, and it was a walk in the park. But it was really neat. Like the animations in these boss fights are really sweet, and you definitely see some of that in the show later on as well. But it fits into the story and everything. So I'm with Shiloh. I 100% recommend it. It's not something that is like like a serious sit down, I want to, experience Final Fantasy 14 in a different medium, but it is very enjoyable. So you have any other thoughts, Shiloh, before we wrap things up?
No.
You did remind me of something. I am, after watching this again, I'm considering seeing if my dad would play Final Fantasy 14. He plays, I think still, Fallout 76 on a PlayStation 4, and has basically played only that game for the past like 3 to 4 years. It's like that's his like thing. He just plays Fallout 76, and so I'm thinking like, well, wonder if he would like get into this, or if it would be. I imagine it would be too much, especially on PlayStation with the controller and everything. But I think it'd be hilarious if I got him and then started running around with him in this game. Just like this. I'd tell him to name his character Indiana Jones or something, but
oh, you'd have to.
Well, that's my final thought on that. So next episode, I think we're going to, I want to do like more of a casual, lighthearted conversation. So we are going to do the next video game face-off, which is Fallout New Vegas versus Mass Effect. But then I want to do a discussion on gaming while traveling, to see if you do that, what type of gaming you do, whether board gaming, cards games, video games maybe. And it's poignant because we're getting to the holiday season where people are traveling all the time. So we're going to dive into that topic and then go take a break and then come back for December. So,
yeah.
All right, Shiloh, it's always good to chat with you about all things gaming. Listener, thank you for hanging out for a bit and listening to Shiloh and I just
spin the yarn.
Spin the tales of time.
Spin the bottle. No,
definitely not that. All right, peace.
Adios. Questing the Multiverse is brought to you in part by Conic Productions, Hal's Wood Designs, and Joel Crawford. To follow along with our adventures, please follow us on Twitter at QTM Podcast and consider joining our Discord, the link of which can be found in the show notes or in our Twitter bio. Want your questions or comments read on the show? Email us at questingthemultiverse@gmail.com. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review or a follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening.